So I want to thank Her Excellency Marta Vera, who's the Honorary Consul of Spain for the El Paso area. Marta, welcome. Uh,
So much for having me, Don
we
Daniel.
we have a lot to share in this compressed meeting, video Zoom meeting, but I want to focus on a very special project that you have been working on and are working on and are expanding. And I want to make sure I got the wording right. It's the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro. Is that right?
Correct.
Oh,
That's right.
okay, so that's a very exciting project. But before we get into that, Martha, tell us about your. I know you wear a lot of hats. You're a very busy lady, but one of your primary functions is the honorary consul of Spain in the El Paso area. Tell us about that role and how that impacts what you're doing with the Camino Real.
Well, in my role, there's several things that I do besides helping both Spanish citizens and American citizens with visas, for students, for people that want to move to Spain. Right now, there is a movement, a law where if you have a grandfather who is Spanish, you can actually get Spanish citizenship or
Now,
nationality.
now is it just grandfathers? I knew it came out in the news. I think it was expired now, but at some point a couple years ago, Spain actually opened up Spanish citizenship if you could prove that you were going all the way back to the 1400s, right, or 1500s. If you were a Sephardic Jew, or if you had left Spain to come to the New World because of the Inquisition, I think primarily. Is that
That's
part of
right.
that, or is that different?
It's actually different.
That's what I
So
thought.
if you had a grandparent, they probably came here during the Civil War and around that time.
That's during the
So
Franco
right
era, right?
now, the Sephardic Jew process kind of ended, and then this one started. But they usually kind of go back and forth. So there's still windows that will be open for nationality.
Okay, very good. So tell us about the Camino Real. And there are, so the Camino Real generically means the road north, basically, right?
Right, it's the inner road. So they had different roads and routes from Mexico City that went up the middle, which is what the Tierra Adentro means.
Now you talk
They
about
had,
Spain did, or the Spanish
yes,
during the
named it.
the
Right.
Viceroyalty.
Yes, it was a royal highway. There is the Camino Real de las Californias, the Real de Tierra Afuera that goes through San Antonio, the Camino Real de las Floridas. So we were going to California, we were going to the Floridas from that central route. So it's a
Now,
very
now what's not taught in the history books is that during the heyday of the Spanish era in the 1500s, maybe even in the 1600s, Mexico City was one of the most populous, most prosperous, wealthiest cities in the world at the time.
Yes, it was considered the crown jewel of Spain, and was an amazing place. It was very prosperous. There was a lot of hustle and bustle. Economically, that's the reason they came up here. They were looking to settle to see what was up there. Coronado had been here, Espejo had been up here, and finally for the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, which actually is a 1,600-mile trade route that served to connect various indigenous and Spanish settlement cities, viceroyalties along the Camino. That went from Mexico City all the way to San Juan de los Caballeros, which today is called Okeowenge.
So that's also Espanola, north of Santa Fe, New Mexico,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what is it that you're trying to do? And tell us about the role that UNESCO, United Nations, what's an acronym UNESCO for?
UNESCO stands for the United Nations Educational and Scientific and Cultural Organization. So back in 2001, a nomination took place where Mexico and the United States binationally were trying to get the 1,600 miles designated a World Heritage Site. Because of politics and a lot of BLM land and National Park Service land, it didn't happen for the United States side. On the Mexican side, it actually did. And in 2010, they got the designation. This book right here was written by José Luis Perea, who is the director of INE, the Instituto Nacional de Antropología y Historia. And this is about the whole Camino Real. However, it's missing the last part of the Camino, which is up here, which is our part.
Okay, if you can hold it right there, because depending on the angle, okay, now it's perfect. I can see. So that white line is the Camino Real, the actual route.
Right. It's a silver line. And the reason it's silver is that originally it was called El Camino de la Plata. And so they did it in silver to kind of designate that that was actually what paid for the rest of the road. Because after, let's see, in 1595, the king wanted the rest of the road, how can I say, uh, hmm, studied. They wanted to see what was up there, if you could colonize there, if you could set up a viceroyalty there, and see how we could work with whoever was out here.
Well,
So
it's human nature to see what's beyond the horizon, right?
that's
Just
right.
to see what's up there, because I mean the world was not known, the full extent of the world, especially in the
Right.
Western Hemisphere. I just wanted to share that because part of the narrative and part of the Black legend, which we have talked about, depicts Spain as greedy and evil and lusting after treasures. I mean, we've heard of the seven cities of gold, Cibola, right? And a
Yes.
lot of it was just pure exploration. What's out there and who's
It
out
was
there?
it was pure exploration because guess what? They didn't find a lot of gold
No,
or
they did.
silver up here,
Yeah.
yet stayed. And they made homes and they made friends and family with the natives that were up here. And that's one important factor that we need to be looking at, especially for the designation, because there was a melding of cultures where those cultures and traditions are still alive today in history, in gastronomy, winemaking. I mean, it's amazing. Everything that Don Juan de Oñate brought with him after he left Valle de Allende, which is the end of what is the designation of UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, which gives outstanding universal value to an entity. And right now it's to the Camino and all the monuments, architecture that are in those areas.
So this particular Camino Real will be as part of the World Heritage Site, gives it special designation and distinctions and protections, I presume.
Yes.
Okay.
There are protections, um, well, and it's up to each community to take care of their own and preserve their World Heritage Site. Mexico does a great job of that. In fact, every year there is a reenactment of Cristobal Oñate, who is Don Juan de Oñate's father, um, and in the plaza in Mexico City. So things happen there celebrating the whole Camino Real de Tierra Adentro.
So let me get this straight. So Don Juan de Oñate, who's villainized by some up in the north in New Mexico, and his statues and schools and everything of his name is vilified, but his father is actually celebrated in Mexico. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow, okay, I didn't know that. So
So,
is that ironic?
yes. Um, and so I think that we need to revisit our history and exactly what
Yes.
happened.
Yeah.
Really understand what it was that was happening then. Things that are happening now were happening then. And so I think that's going to change a lot of our history. In fact, all of the wonderful cultures that we have in Europe right now, that we have in Spain, is not just from the Spanish people, but it came from the Greeks, from the Celts, from the Romans, other people that came
The
there,
Moors, the Moors.
conquered the Moors. Oh
Uh,
my goodness,
the Alhambra was built by the Moors, right?
Yes, the
Alhambra in Granada,
Alhambra, the Mezquita in Cordoba
Cordoba. Hmm.
Palace, just beautiful, beautiful architecture, and they do not get rid of their monuments. And so we need to learn
Hmm.
to keep them because that is our, how do you say, patrimonio, our heritage, uh, and and that's important for the state of New Mexico, for the state of Texas. Texas is very much about retaining that history. In fact, um, San Antonio has three historical landmarks, and these are World Heritage Sites. They have already been recognized, and they are the missions. And we all know about the Alamo. That's one of them. And so we have two more missions there.
Hmm.
And so we want to begin recognizing what we have in our area because not only is it going to give us value and pride, it's going to give us tourism and economic development because this route was, is, and always will be an economic route.
Well, even to this very day, right? From El
Yes,
Paso all the way up, to Albuquerque, to Socorro, to Santa Fe, to Oquewingue, Española, to Taos, and all the way up
all
north
the
to
way up.
Colorado. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
All the way
It,
up. And interestingly, it's not just by land, it's by air. And that's something that we haven't thought about it, is that we are following that same path with our airplanes.
oh, very interesting.
So
So,
we're going from there to California. I mean, that's how we do and how we get to Florida.
so this Camino Real, it crosses through private land. You said BLM land, which complicates what you're trying to do. I think you said Ted Turner's ranches and uh,
Yes,
the spaceport.
yes,
So
Spaceport
tell us a
America.
little bit about that, what's in the middle of that, and what you're trying to do, and how possibly anybody viewing this video can help out or get involved.
Yes, we want everyone to get involved. In fact, it would be, I think, a wonderful thing for Spaceport America and for Ted Turner's Ranch to know that, and I don't know if anyone has visited Ted Turner's Ranch, but they actually have wagon wheel ruts from Don Juan de Oñate's
Oh,
wagons.
wow.
So that is a wow factor.
Mhm.
If we could have people come and visit that, um, understand the Spaceport America. It's right on the Camino Real. Why is it so? Well, I think we have to know that the stars are aligning on this route,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well,
And
there's even an American version of that, the Santa Fe Trail, and it
yes,
has a marker. It's recognized. I don't know what the designation is in the within the United States or the Interior Department, but I know it is recognized as Santa Fe Trail. I think it's from Missouri somewhere, or St.
mhm,
Louis, to Santa Fe. There's a marker on the plaza where it
yes,
actually ends. There's a street, a famous street in Santa Fe, Old Santa Fe Trail, which is part of that trail. So this is not unique to Mexico or Spain. This kind of designations, are recognized.
right. And actually, our Camino Real on the US side is recognized by the United States as a National Historic Trail. What we need to do now is register our monuments as National Historic Monuments. And so I think once we can get that designation as well, it'll be very easy to get the UNESCO designation as World Heritage Site. Not only are we looking at it as UNESCO ICOMOS, but the Vatican is looking at this whole 1,600-mile route as a holy route, as the route that Christianity took to bring it
To spread
to,
Christianity, yeah, yeah.
yes, to spread Christianity.
So I've
And
heard of this Camino when I was in Spain, and I think there's a film called it's pretty famous, the Camino, which
the
goes
way,
from well, the Camino. It's called the Camino from the trail from ostensibly it was the trail or the route that King James, one of the apostles, when he was buried, he's beheaded. His body was taken to Spain and to Santiago is the legend
right,
one. And so the Camino, they call it the Camino, and it's a pilgrimage that people take from
yes,
Spain all the way to Santiago. And is that a World Heritage?
that is a World Heritage Site. In fact, all of the
Definitely the
three routes,
Vatican, definitely the Vatican recognizes that, of course.
yes,
Yeah.
Yes, it's recognized by the Vatican as a holy road, which is why it's used that way. So the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro could actually be that kind of pilgrimage.
Okay. And you mentioned the spread of it was a vehicle which helped spread Christianity because we know that unlike other European powers of the time, Queen Isabel and Spain, they mandated that all expeditions, I think virtually all, I can't say all, I don't know for sure, but I thought virtually all expeditions had priests with them. That's why they brought the wine and brought the cattle and the sheep to
They
spread
brought bees for
bees.
the wax. Yes,
Wow, yeah. And so it was instrumental in spreading Christianity. And now, what I'm getting to is that if you look at the 23 pueblos and tribes that are in New Mexico, which there's more than any other state. And it's not because there are more natives here than in other places. It's like they had the protections of Spain, but I think virtually everyone has their own church. Even
yes,
after the Pueblo revolt, which some churches were destroyed, they rebuilt them. So
yes.
that blending of cultures, native, and of course there was, of people were of the time. There was conflict and going back and forth between, their native traditions and they call it religion, but it originally wasn't a religion per se. But now there's a blending of both cultures. So yeah, it is very important, not just for the Spanish heritage, but the Catholic Christian heritage as well.
Right. And I think it's important that you mentioned about the pueblos because there are pueblos on our list that are designated World Heritage Site, um, future World Heritage Sites. So that's very good too, because since 1630, all of those pueblos had land grants or land plots that were given to them by the Spanish because the Spanish were not supposed to live in their areas. So they had marked off those areas saying this belongs to this pueblo, this belongs to this pueblo. And so they had those documents. What
Right.
happened is that during the Pueblo Revolt, they were all burned, unfortunately. And that is a study that I was just doing and found that out. Then they were given um, the land grant again in 1751. So
And they were
yeah, that's why
recognized.
they're all there.
Yeah, and I'm not sure given was the right term, but they were recognized.
Yes, they were recognized.
They were
What I'm saying is that this document was given to them
right.
to say, yeah, you guys live there. This is where we're going to live, and
Yeah,
nobody can ever take that property from you.
because prior to the Europeans and the Spanish primarily coming over, those lands were in flux. I mean,
Right,
the one rated is whoever had rated the last owned that land, but there was nothing. They didn't have the real
right.
language, they didn't have rule of law. So, yeah, the Spanish gave them that stability. Also, to finish that story, then the when Mexico gained their independence, I think it was 1821,
Mhm.
and ceded, this area, from Mexico to California, as we know, to Utah, to the Americans in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which ended the war or solidified the war. Those pueblos were recognized in that treaty, and the pueblos today still use that treaty in their fights with the federal government in federal court. They use the lands in the what recognized in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. So this is all very historic, and it needs to be recognized. And anything we can do, and I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this that want to get involved. Now you are as we speak today. This is January 16th. I'm sorry, 18th, January 18th, you will be coming up to Santa Fe for a conference from the 19th to the 21st. So on the 19th,
Actually, the 29th through the
I'm
30th.
sorry, the 29th through the 31st.
Yes.
And so we are going to hold a reception for you. We started the United States Hispanic Anti-Defamation Association as an umbrella organization. We're going to host you for a reception. And we want to invite people to come to that, meet you, and learn more about this Camino Real, uh, Tierra Adentro.
De tierra adentro.
Yeah,
Yes, it's very exciting, and I hope that we get everyone to buy into this because it's going to take all of us. It's going to take a village because we all have to do all of our documentation. We need local, we need state, we need federal governments to be helping because part of what we need to do is have ICOMOS. We need to make a nomination and put it on the tentative list. That tentative list is very long. And since the first half of the Camino Real is already designated, what we're going to do is we're going to be annexed by Mexico. The United States has to come in, it has to be done binationally to take that road all the way up to Okeowenge. And so, in doing that, we need to collect all our history, all our archives, and the importance of music, the importance of dance, the importance of food, wine along the Camino. It's it all makes part of that culture. And there's so many of us that are actual descendants of the people who came here.
right,
So, and that's another beauty. So um, that's what's so valuable about where we live.
right. And there's a descendants of the Uñate expedition live here.
Yes,
We even have a Facebook group.
yes.
So yeah, our histories, it would be, I'm sure they'd be very interested in learning about this. Do you have a website? How can people stay in touch with you, stay in touch with the progress, and possibly, be involved?
I can give you my email address. I do not have a website, although I am working on one for UNESCO now for
So what
our
is, what is your email address if people want to reach
my
you?
email address is consulspain@gmail.com. That's CON as in Nancy, S as in Sam, UL Spain at gmail.com.
Okay, and when I send this out, I'll see if we can edit this and have that listed there. But no, it's a great story. There's so much history here, so much that is untold, and
Yes.
very glad and congratulate you on taking on this project. And it benefits all of us to learn more about our history.
Right. We may have people along the Camino who actually have stories that we've never heard,
Right,
and
right,
that is something else that needs to be documented.
right.
Um, our forefathers, the Spaniards, were amazing at keeping documents and archives, and
Yes,
we need to follow in that suit.
right, right. Very good. Okay. Well, Martha Vera, Honorary Consul of Spain, thank you very much for your time. We wish you much success, and we look forward to seeing you on the 29th of January and invite anybody watching this to join us at that reception. I'll be giving out the location and time when you receive this email.
I am looking forward to this. Thank you so much, Don Daniel, for having me on this.
Okay, you're welcome. You take care. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.